Okay. So this is a very famous festival in Bengal. It is called the Cida Motsava, or the Chipped Rice Festival of Panihati. It's a yearly festival, takes place like today is the day it's celebrated. And it's a pastime of the divine character of Nityananda and the austere character of Raghunath Das Goswami. And it took place on the banks of the Ganga at Panihati. It's a town north of Kolkata. And Lord Chaitanya also participated in this festival. It's a really incredible festival. So what happened was, it's a festival where the devotee was reciprocated, or the Lord reciprocated very beautifully with the devotees. So through Nityananda and Raghunath. And the festival is all about a fantastic feast that was offered to the devotees of yogurt and chip rice, along with a lot of other nectarian fruits. This pastime is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and Antya Leela, chapter 6. So it's quite an important pastime. Raghunath Das Goswami is one of the 6 Goswamis. There's Sri Rupa, Sri Sanatan, Bhatta Raghunath, Jiva Goswami, and Gopal Bhatt Goswami. So Raghunath Das Goswami is one of those 6 Goswamis. And although he was born in a very wealthy family, married to a very beautiful wife, he was very detached from a very young age. And he tried to take shelter of Lord Chaitanya many, many times. One time he met Lord Chaitanya in Shantipur, the place of Advaita Charya, and he said to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I want to surrender my life to you. But at that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, you're too young, and false renunciation can be a dangerous thing. So you just go back to your family. You can think of the Lord, think of me, and do your duties at the same time. So he did that. He obeyed the order. But he was constantly thinking about how to get away from family life, because he knew the futility of it, and he knew the importance of devotional service. He would request his father many times to go to different festivals. So at one time, Lord Nityananda was at Panihati, and he said to his father, can I please go? His father allowed him to go. And when he reached there, he saw Lord Nityananda. He paid his obeisances from a long distance away. But Lord Nityananda saw him, and he summoned him, and he called him nearby, and there was a wonderful exchange between the Lord and his devotee. And there's a picture. There you go. The Lord actually put his lotus foot on the head of Raghunath, very, very fortunate soul. And the Lord ordered him that there are a lot of devotees here. I want you to organize a festival of chip rice and yogurt. I want you to feed everybody. Don't be a miser, he said. Of course, Raghunath Das wasn't a miser, but this was the leela between the wonderful relationship between Nityananda and Raghunath Das. So this festival, Raghunath Das Goswami was very, very pleased to be requested like this by the Lord. He was so happy, as were all the assembled Vaishnavas. When the Lord asks you to do something, that's a real blessing. Not many people get that amazing mercy. So it took place, it's very hot nowadays. It's a hot season in Bharat. And the idea of this festival is, yogurt is very cooling, and chip rice is very easy to digest. And Raghunath Das Goswami also combined sugar, bananas, milk sweets, cakes, so many different things. So he bought all of these items, and devotees from everywhere were hearing of this wonderful festival that was going to take place, and they were coming in big, big numbers. It was as if the whole place was completely inundated with devotees. There was hardly any place to stand or sit. Luckily, social distancing wasn't an issue at that time. So, I don't know what's happening today there, though, or what's already happened. Anyway, so these devotees came, and Nityananda was so pleased. He honored them all for coming. And then everybody was served these preparations. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at that time in Jagannath Puri. But Nityananda is so powerful that he brought Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by his meditation to Panihati. And as he was serving everybody, he would take out some of a portion of the rice and the yogurt, and he would push it into Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mouth as a joke. And not everybody could see him, but some of the Vaishnavas, the pure-hearted Vaishnavas, would be able to see what was going on, and they would relish the fun the two lordships were having with each other. And this is part of this pastime where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was present as well. So the day after the festival, because Raghunath Das had a huge desire to, as I said before, detach himself from worldly life. So Nityananda Prabhu gave him this blessing that very soon you will attain the shelter of Chaitanya. So don't worry, just be patient. So after this incident, he went back home, and then after some time, he, with the help of the family priest, managed to get away. His family priest's name was Yadunandan Acharya. Managed to escape from his house, his palace actually, and went to Jagannath Puri to meet with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entrusted Raghunath, he was very pleased to see him, and entrusted him to Swarup Damodar Goswami. And, what happened? This thing got saved. Okay. Anyway, he trusted him to Swarup Damodar. And Raghunath Das Goswami was very, very austere. And at some point in the future, when his appearance or disappearance day comes, we'll discuss his austerity, how he lived. He used to live by begging. But even that, he stopped. He used to just collect food from wherever he would be able to get and wash it and eat it. And especially Jagannath Prasad, he honored Jagannath Prasad with such humility and such respect. That is a very good example to all of us how not to waste prasad. Very important. We have this tendency of, we have so much of it, we don't really understand the value of prasad. So Raghunath Das Goswami is a very good example how to value prasad. Okay, so that was the festival I wanted to just quickly describe to you. I wanted to, the main topic is going to be Lord Parasurama. So let me just open that now. So we've talked about Mach, Kach, Varaha, Nasingha, Vaman, and now we are on to Parasurama, the 6th of the 10 incarnations. And, yeah, good. So this is a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto, 15th chapter, 14th verse. We can recite this together. Yam ahur vasudevam sam ayayanam kulantakam trisapta krito yoimam chakre nikshatriyam mahim.
Learned scholars accept this Parasurama as the celebrated avatar of Vasudeva, who annihilated the dynasty of Ketarvirya and killed All the
Kartavya.
Kshatriyas, 21 times.
So, this incarnation is quite a unique one. He came as a Kshatriya, and he did a lot of clearing of the rubbish. So the history behind this is there was a king called Kusha, and that's not the same Kusha as Lovin Kush, the son of Ram. This is a different Kusha who was I think grandson or great grandson of Lord Brahma himself, as an ancestor of Janu. Janu Muni we talked about when we did the Janu Shaptavami, where he drank up the Ganga in one go. So he's a very powerful king, a powerful sage, sorry. And his son, Kusha's son, was the powerful Kushanaba, whose son was King Gadi. And King Gadi's son is Vishwamitra, very famous sage. But initially, he only had a daughter called Satyavati. This daughter was extraordinarily beautiful. And a sage, many people wanted to marry, many kings wanted to marry. But there was a sage called Ruchika, who was quite an old sage, but he became attracted to Satyavati, and he asked the king, Gadi, to marry Satyavati. And the king was a little reluctant because of his age. So he set normally the dowry. He set a dowry. Normally the dowry is paid by the girl side to the man side. But in this case, he set a dowry that Ruchika would have to give him 1,000 pure white horses, ivory white, beautiful, spotless white horses, with one black ear, right? 1,000 of those. He set him such an impossible task that the king was thinking, he'll never achieve this. So at least my daughter won't have to marry Ruchika. He didn't want to say no because he knew the power of the sages. Anyway, Ruchika worshipped Varun Dev. Varun Dev is the lord of water, of the oceans. Varun Dev very kindly granted him a gift of 1,000 horses with a black ear. Now the king gave a concession that it doesn't matter whether the black ear was in the left ear or the right ear. Not much of a concession. But anyway, he managed to get the horses and he gave them to the king. King was actually very impressed, and Ruchika married Satyavati. Now, here there's a little bit of a complication. After some time, Satyavati wanted a child, a son, and Satyavati's mother, i.e. Gadi's wife, Dharampatni, they didn't have a son because Satyavati was the only daughter. So she also desired a child, a son. And she said to Ruchika that I also want a son. So both of them wanted children. So this sage, very powerful, he made a special charu, a special mixture of rice, milk, and water, sugar. And he offered it, he made two separate offerings. He gave one to Satyavati, and he gave the other to Satyavati's mother. Now, and he went off and had a bath in the Ganga, and he told them, you should eat this, and you will get your respective desires fulfilled. So Satyavati's mother was thinking, Ruchika, the sage, loves you, Satyavati, more than me, of course, because he's your husband. And that means that you have a portion, you have the potential of a son who is going to be far better than mine. So can we swap the rice so that I eat yours and you eat mine? I've looked after you all my life. You can do this for me. And Satyavati was very kind-hearted. She swapped its rice with the mother, and they both ate the rice. Ruchika came back and he found out what had happened, and he said, this actually is a big mistake, because for Satyavati's mother, I had prepared a portion where she would have a son who would be a very strong Kshatriya, very powerful. And for you, Satyavati, my dear wife, I gave a portion so that you would have a nice Brahminical boy who would be a devotee of the Lord. And when Satyavati heard this, she was very sorry. And she said to Ruchika, please, can we have a concession? And Ruchika, being kind-hearted, said, okay, your son will be a great sage, but your grandson will be a warrior. So what happened? Satyavati's mother, she gave birth to Vishwamitra, great sage. And Satyavati herself gave birth initially to a great sage called Jamdagni. And Jamdagni's son is Parshuram. Parshuram is the warrior. And he's also an incarnation of the Supreme Personality Godhead. They had 5 children. The youngest was Parshuram. Jamdagni was married to Renuka. And Jamdagni, being a great sage, he possessed a wish-fulfilling cow called Kamadenu. And he was very, very simple sage. He didn't have luxury at his disposal. He didn't want it because he had Gomata to look after his every need. And he lived very, very simply. Now, Parshuram, he had the mentality of a warrior, and he did some tapasya, and he received an axe, a very special axe from Lord Shiva. He did the tapasya to Lord Shiva, and he received this boon from Lord Shiva. One day, he was away from home, and the king, the local king, was a very powerful king, Kartavirya Arjun, very powerful. He was so powerful, he defeated Ravan at one point. So he was really easily defeated Ravan. Kartavirya had 1,000 hands, and he was a devotee actually of Dattatreya, devotee of Lord Vishnu. And he was so powerful, he knew that nobody could defeat him. So he pleased the Lord one time, and the Lord had said to him, what do you want? What boon can I give you? He said to the Lord, I want a boon that I will be killed by you. Very unusual boon. So anyway, one day, Kartavirya Arjun came to the ashram with his army of Jamdagni. At that time, Jamdagni welcomed him very nicely, treated him like a guest. This is in Bharatiya culture. And with the help of the Kamandayu cow, he prepared a wonderful feast for the king and his men. And they really were amazed at the provisions that had been provided by this simple sage for the whole army. And he had huge, huge armies. Anyway, instead of being grateful, the king forcefully stole the Kamandayu cow, and he left for the kingdom, or left for his capital. Parshuram returned to the ashram. He heard about the theft. He became very angry, and he went with his axe to destroy the king. And the king could see from a long distance Parshuram coming. He sent his armies, and he had huge armies. He said that it's millions of soldiers. And Parshuram destroyed those soldiers very, very easily with his simple axe. It was said that he was fighting with the speed of the mind. And then when he got tired, he was fighting with the speed of the wind. So you can imagine, that's fast. So then there was only the king left with his 10,000 sons. He had a lot of sons. But they didn't want the sons to fight. So the king, Kartavirya, went before Parshuram with his 1,000 hands. He had 500 bows and arrows aimed at Parshuram. And in one go, 500 arrows were coming against Parshuram. Parshuram very easily wielded the axe and destroyed all those arrows. And he also severed the king's arms and chopped his head off as well. And in this way, he defeated Kartavirya very easily. So this is a little portrayal or a little example of the power of the king, but how Parshuram destroyed him very easily with his axe. So now Parshuram came home with the cow, told his father what happened, thinking he would become pleased. But the father said, actually, you've committed a great sin because you've killed a very pious emperor. Okay, he stole the cow, but that's not a huge offense. So you have killed him for no good reason. And you need to perform tapasya to get rid of this sin. To atone for the sin, you have to go on pilgrimage. So Parshuram went for 1 year and he visited all the different holy places around Bharat. Then he returned home. When he returned home, he was faced with a terrible dilemma. What had happened was Jamdagni's wife, Renuka, was asked by Jamdagni to get some water from the Ganga. And because they were doing a sacrifice, a yajna. So whilst doing this, she went to the Ganga, but she saw a Gandharva. Gandharva are very beautiful. And actually in the Bhagavad Gita, Gandharvas are mentioned. Krishna mentions Gandharvas. And she became attracted to one of the Gandharvas. For whatever reason, she had some desire. And she took her time to come back to Jamdagni. In the meantime, Jamdagni was wondering what was going on. When she came back, he could see that there was some problem. And he understood by looking into her mind that she'd become bewildered and actually became attracted to somebody else. He became very angry. And he told his sons, his 4 sons, because at that time Parshuram wasn't there, kill your mother. They refused. Parshuram came back. Jamdagni ordered him, kill your mother and your brothers as well. Now, very unusual request. And Parshuram was thinking, what shall I do? Because if I disobey my own father, he will get angry. But I also know my father is very generous. If I obey him, he will grant me a wish. And my wish will be to bring back my mother and my brothers. So he did that. He killed his mother on the order of his father and his brothers. And true to form, Jamdagni was very pleased. He asked him, what would you like? And Parshuram said, please bring back alive my mother and my brothers. And so that they can't remember what has happened. So Parshuram is an example of one of a son who obeys the order of the father completely, even though the order may seem very, very strange. But the reason why he did that was he knew that they would be able to come back to life. So, and the father, he was very austere, and he was a great sage, so he could grant such wishes. In the meantime, the 10,000 sons of Kartavirya had revenge on them in their mind. And one time they came to the ashram of Jamdagni, and Jamdagni was seated in meditation. And at that time, they killed him, chopped his head off. Parshuram came back home. He was hearing the screams of his mother and his brothers. And he was overcome by grief initially. And then he took up his weapon and with great anger approached the kingdom of the sons of Kartavirya. And he destroyed them. It's said in the Bhagavatam that he created a mountain of heads severed from the bodies of King Kartavirya's sons. So it's quite a ghastly scene. There was a river of blood that flowed to the land with the blood of these sons. Not just that, but he saw that the Kshatriya class was so arrogant and they lacked any religious purpose that he killed them 21 times over. And it's said that in this place known as Samanta Panchak, 9 lakes were created with the blood of these 21 classes, the Kshatriyas, 21 classes of Kshatriyas, or generations of Kshatriyas. So he was quite aggressive. Parshuram then joined the father's head to his body, placed it on kusha grass, and due to his tapasya, he was able to regain his own body, and eventually he's become one of the Saptarishis. These Saptarishis assist Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva in managing this universe. So Jandakni is one of those Saptarishis. Parshuram wanted to stop his destruction. He gave the entire earth to Kashyap because he owned everything. When you destroy the kings, you own their possessions. He gave it all away, and he went to perform austerities in the Himalayas. And he still resides. One time he met Ramachandra when Ramachandra was in the Swayamvar to win Sita's hand. He picked up the bow of Lord Shiva and he strung it, and the bow cracked, made a huge sound. At that time, Parshuram, thinking that again the Kshatriyas were becoming arrogant, came running to see who is this arrogant Kshatriya who's come and destroyed Shiva's bow. So this is when they came face to face. The two avatars, Ramachandra and Parshuram, came face to face. And Ramachandra explained to Parshuram that I am Ram. And he had strung his arrow on the bow, and he said, where shall I shoot this arrow? And Parshuram, realizing that this is none other than Lord Vishnu himself, surrendered himself, and he said, you can shoot it into my prowess, my strength, so that I have no strength left. Parshuram is a personality who still is alive, still is living in the Himalayas, in meditation. And it's said in the Srimad Bhagavatam that in the next Manvantara, the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead, Lord Parshuram, the son of Jandakni, will be a propounder of Vedic knowledge and will become one of the Saptarishis, 7 sages. So the question is why? Why did Parshuram kill so many people? Isn't it better to establish peace rather than to wage war? Well, it depends. Same dilemma was facing Arjun in the battle of Kurukshetra. And he was advised by Krishna that this is a religious war, you have to fight, you have to do your duty. So sometimes the only option is through violent way. His war, however, was a just revolution against injustice. It was necessary to establish true peace, which had been disrupted by the aggressive leaders. And to fulfill the promise of the Lord to protect his devotees, Parshuram destroyed these corrupt leaders who were actually harassing the sages. So, and as the kings were not, they were neglecting religious principles and torturing innocent citizens, their hostile regime had to come to an end at some point. So this is what Parshuram did. He brought it all to an end. So who is Parshuram? He's listed as both Lila Avatar, and he is also listed as Shaktivesh Avatar. And Satyavesha avatar means, Leela avatar means one who comes and performs pastimes. And Shaktavesha avatars means one who has been specially empowered to do something. And Parshuram was specially empowered to eradicate uh, evil. Is known as Dushta Dhamana Shakti. So there are two types of Shakti Avesh avatars. There's the direct and then there's the indirect. What does that mean? When the Lord himself comes and manifests a particular potency, he is called direct Shakti Avesh avatar. So that's the Lord himself. And the examples are Kapil Muni, who's described in the third canto of Bhagavatam, and Rishabdev, who's described in the fifth canto. These are both Vishnu Tattva, but they have a particular potency. So they are supreme, they are directly supreme Vishnu, but they're regarded as Shakti Vaishvata because they are partial manifestations of Lord Vishnu. And the second type, the indirect, is where a jiva, an ordinary soul, is empowered by the Supreme Lord with special powers. And this is the case of Parshuram. He's regarded to be a jiva who has been specially empowered by the Lord to conduct his activities. So this is the position of Parshuram. Parshuram ki jai. So thank you very much for participating. If there's any questions or any comments, anything you'd like to know a little bit more about, or not quite getting understanding, or some realization that you've had, you've heard something, you read something before, which can also help us understand Parshuram, be very happy for you to contribute. Okay. In that case, we can go to the Nashinga Kavach. Karuna Bandar, would you like to recite this prayer so that we can pray for everybody's well-being?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Shri Lakshmi Nrsimha ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai,
Yeah.
Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Nrsimha kavacham vakshe prahladena ditam pura, sarva rakshakaram punyam sarvopadravana